Just when you thought that Donald's insider trading and market manipulation scheme couldn't get any more blatant, here he is at the Oval Office yesterday touting the multi-million-dollar wins of his buddies.
This is Charles Schwab. It's not just about
It's actually an individual.
He made $2.5 million today, and he made $900 million. That's not bad. He's financial.
We should all be rendered speechless by that gross corruption that is happening in open in the Oval Office in the People's House. Yes, that is Donald Trump, apparently president of the United States of America. Thanks, guys. Blatantly bragging that his friends made fortunes because of his market games. Donald's insider trading was already egregious. It was already obvious. He literally tweeted out when to buy stocks before making his 90-day pause on the tariffs announcement, just giving his very obscenely wealthy friends enough time to cash it. So yeah, yesterday was a great day to be one of Donald's insiders, one of those sycophants, one of those people who cares only about how much money they have in their bank accounts. Who gives a shit about the American people? Because it was a bad day for the rest of us. This 90-day pause might have worked under different circumstances, but this moron has injected so much chaos and uncertainty into the market and the global economy that yesterday was a blip on this radar, because prices are going to continue to go up, and so is inflation, because nobody trusts him, and therefore nobody trusts America anymore. Despite Donald's claims, nothing is getting any better for the people who should matter to him. Egg prices continue to rise to an all-time high of $6.23 per dozen. This is the third month in a row prices have reached record highs. Prices in 2020 averaged $1.51 per dozen, and the USDA forecasts that egg prices will increase 41.10% over the course of this year. The market continues to swing and even drop as any gains from yesterday's boost slowly disappear. And by the way, yes, the stock market had a very big day yesterday, but it still wasn't enough to erase the losses of the previous 4 days. Even as the Trump regime met today for a cabinet meeting, as just as their rhetoric dropped like acid, the market continued to drop as they lied and lied and lied about everything, which is literally the only thing these people are capable of doing other than kissing their boss's ass. Here is Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent crafting up fake numbers in the cabinet meeting.
He's saying it. I think Scott, do you want to have a statement on that?
Sure. Look, the up 2, down 1 is not a bad ratio, or up 10, down 5. And I think, as we have talked about, as we go through the queue and settle with these countries who are going to bring us their best offers, we will end up in a place of great certainty over the next 90 days on tariffs. We had very good inflation numbers today. Oil's down. We had a successful bond market. So I don't see anything unusual today.
Because you're not paying attention. That's why. You're paying attention to Donald. You're wanting his nod because you're such a pathetic traitor. Up 2, down 1. The market's been down 5 out of the last 6 days. For the Secretary of Treasury, he seems pretty terrible with numbers. Companies are suffering too. Today, Apple announced that they are switching up their manufacturing strategy, turning to India to keep up with supply. Apple is heavily invested over a couple of decades in China. They have built up a massive infrastructure in China. Having products smacked with 124% tariffs is going to seriously undermine the viability of what is and has been one of the most successful corporations in American history. Of course, Americans are going to continue to be the biggest losers here. Prices continue to go up. Companies are moving businesses out of America. It's only Donald's lackeys and insiders who continue to get richer and richer and richer on our backs. So let's see what the regime had to say about the timing of all of this. Here's Florida Republican Representative Carlos Jimenez when questioned on CNN about how these events have unfolded.
Do you have any questions about the timing there? Was he telling people, was he tipping people off? Was it market manipulation?
No, actually, we had lunch with a major stockbroker, from New York, and we were talking to him about these tariffs and all that. And then one of the things he said was, "It's time to buy." And he had no idea what was going to happen later. I mean, look, you buy when the market is low, and the market has just taken a pretty big dip. That's when the smart people start to buy. Like I said, everybody needs to calm down and not panic. Well, some people did panic.
Wow, that was so authentic and believable. By the way, smart people buy when the market is down if they know the market isn't going to keep going down. And there was literally no reason yesterday morning to know that. Why? Because nothing had changed. In fact, Donald had only doubled down on his disastrous strategy that was making the markets tank in the first place. Up until yesterday morning, there was literally no reason to believe that he was going to change course, because that is not something he does. Just the day before, a rumor had been spread that there was going to be a 90-day pause on the tariffs that he imposed so recklessly. And we were told by his press secretary that that was fake news and that he was not going to be backing off from his disastrous tariffs. So I do not believe anybody who tells me that this was just investors being smart about the direction of the market. At this point, they're just gaslighting us. This is manipulation of the market right in front of our faces, and then telling us, yeah, hey, we're just really smart investors. We knew, we just had some intuition that everything was going to be okay. Like they think we're idiots. Well, you know what? They do think we're idiots, but we're not. We know what's going on here. Donald was not making any effort to revitalize the market or the global economy. I mean, maybe that's what he thought he was doing because he's stupid. But whether it was accidental or intentional, his main goal always is to help himself and his friends, such as they are, get more obscenely wealthy. Now, before we continue, please hit like, share this video, and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We're pushing to get to 400,000 subscribers, which would be amazing for us. As independent media, your support helps us reach more people and keeps this going. Before we dive in further, please take a second to follow the podcast wherever you listen. And please give it a 5-star rating because it really does help other people find our content. Okay, so let's get back to the corruption because there is so much of it and, so much corruption, so little time. Donald's lackeys have been taking advantage of this market downturn with members of Congress buying up stocks while prices are low. It's clear that some of them at least knew the market was going to rebound, while the rest of the world was anxiously waiting for relief from Donald's deliberately crashed stock market. Because again, there was literally no indication that he was going to back off the strategy that was making the market crash in the first place. People like Marjorie Green were buying stocks. Green disclosed the purchase of several stocks that faced steep drawdowns last week, including Apple Inc. and Amazon.com Inc., and she purchased them in the middle of the market crash just a few days before Donald announced his reversal. A coincidence? I don't know. Does Marjorie Green seem like some kind of marketing whiz to you? Does she seem like somebody who understands? Well, she's an idiot. She doesn't understand anything about anything except hate. She's very good at the hate. Yeah, that is credit where credit is due. But there is no universe in which that person suddenly saw the light and realized, man, I think today's the day I go out and buy some RH stock, which she did, by the way, and it then increased in value by 27%. People are starting to wonder who else got rich during this debacle. I mean, obviously Donald did, and that is the most important thing to him. Trump Media and Technology Group Corp, which is to be distinguished from Mary Trump Media, obviously. That's his social media company owned by him. It runs his failing social media site, True Social. Their stock soared more than 18% on Wednesday. Oh, so weird. As reported by the AP, I'm actually surprised they were allowed to report on this because they are just so recalcitrant and continue to insist upon calling the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of Mexico. This is of particular interest considering Donald signed off his tip to buy stocks post with the company's stock symbol DJT. When asked, the White House brushed it off, explaining that Donald often signs his post with his initials to emphasize that he has personally written the post. I mean, okay, I'll grant you that. I will grant you that. However, Donald's 53% ownership stake in the company is now in trust controlled by Donnie. That rose by $415 million yesterday. And then we have Elon Musk. In response to yesterday's whiplash, Tesla surged, adding $20 billion to Musk's net worth. I'm not trying to let anybody off the hook here, obviously. I don't think that saying Donald is a complete moron, which is how we got into this mess in the first place with the potential tanking of the global economy and the prospect of a global recession. I think that just because he's stupid and doesn't really know what he's doing, that doesn't mean that he's not responsible. He's in a position of enormous responsibility. So, no. And I'm also not saying that what happened yesterday had been planned all along, because I don't think that's true. I think somebody else in his orbit recognized an opportunity and decided to exploit it, recognizing that Donald is so easily manipulable that they could get him to do whatever he wanted, which in this case was putting the brakes on the destruction and devastation of the global economy. In the meantime, it just so happened that a small number of people who had insider knowledge got even richer. And that's pretty much all that's pretty much all they had to say to Donald in order to get him on board. Hey, it's illegal. It's really unethical. A lot of people are going to get hurt on the other end of this, but you're going to get rich. Sign me up, he said. Luckily, these significant gains, especially Musk's, have motivated Democrats to start being quite vocal about the corruption, and they are starting to look for answers. Adam Schiff is calling for an investigation. Democrats in general are asking for disclosures in the wake of this news. Schiff wants a full investigation, emphasizing that this is what he refers to as a troubling abuse of power.
With this market fluctuation, are you concerned that there could be members of the White House that are benefiting from it?
Absolutely. I'm writing to the White House to demand who knew in advance that the president was going to once again flip-flop on tariffs, and are people cashing in? There is just all too much opportunity for people in the White House and the administration to be insider trading, and you can't put it past them for a minute. So we're going to try to find out.
There's a good chance they'll just ignore you, though, right? Should there be some other independent investigation into this?
Well, I think Congress should do an investigation into this, but we're going to demand answers from the administration. I think you're right. They're likely to stonewall, particularly if they've been engaged in corrupt insider trading. But they won't be able to hide it for good. I mean, we know who's in the administration. We can look at eventually what people are buying and selling. This will come out.
Okay, I mean, good that all of these investigations should be happening, but that's a pretty grim assessment because we're going to find out, and then what? Nothing, because the Department of Justice is Donald's personal law firm now, and who's going to hold him accountable? A bunch of so-called activist judges. But that's where we are, and it's good to know. Like maybe this will get some Americans to start paying attention and start caring that we are currently being run by the most corrupt, viciously cruel, incompetent, and insane regime, and certainly in American history. And they're giving a lot of other corrupt, autocratic, fascistic regimes a run for their money as well. Now, while rumors swirl about trades involving strategic investments made by people in Congress, and companies that ultimately benefited from the tariff, suspicion grows over whether insiders had advanced knowledge. If proven true, the faulty ethics of Trump regime era policies and the blurred lines between government actions and personal profit will be even more blatant than it has been before. Senator Ruben Gallego joined Schiff in this sentiment, and they are sending a letter addressed to the Office of Government Ethics, Acting Director Jameson Greer, and White House Chief of Staff Susan Wiles. Quote, "We write to request an urgent inquiry into whether Donald, his family, or other members of the administration engaged in insider trading or other illegal financial transactions, informed by advanced knowledge of non-public information regarding his changes to tariff policy yesterday or at any time during this administration," unquote. The senator specifically highlighted an 18% surge in the price of Tesla stock, which we just talked about, arguing that Department of Government Efficiency head Elon Musk may have benefited from Donald's actions. Can we stop with the pulling of the punches? It is very clear that this is what happened. Again, I don't believe that this was the plan all along. I don't believe that there was a cabal of people urging Donald on to destroy the world economy. But, there are a lot of people in his orbit who recognize an opportunity when they see one. And clearly, they recognize that Donald is somebody who is so easy to exploit, and he would make it easier for them to exploit this horrific situation that the rest of us find ourselves in. It's not just senators calling for transparency. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is also demanding we learn more about what went down this week. Here she is on the steps of the Capitol.
I'm very curious as to some of the discussions that were happening at the NRCC dinner, the Trump speech the night before this tariff announcement. I'm very interested in the May 15th disclosure deadline for members of Congress and what members of Congress, Republican or Democrat, were trading the day before and the morning of the tariff announcement. And I'm very interested in tracking some of the communications and who was communicating with whom in the 48 hours preceding.
What should the next step be, do you think?
Pardon?
What should the next step be, do you think?
Well, there are a couple of next steps. The most obvious and clear next step, I believe, is moving to the floor the insider trading ban for members of Congress. Now, of course, that is challenging to do when many of the people who would be subject to that bill would be voting on it. Personally, I think anyone who is actively engaged in trading individual stocks should not vote on those bills at all. I believe that they have a conflict of interest, and so they should exempt themselves from such a vote.
Well, if we want to do things right, then anybody who wants the honor and privilege of serving in the United States Congress should have to put all of their investments in a blind trust, and they should not have stocks at all. They should have absolutely nothing to do with their investments while they're in office. But that's a conversation for another time. What Ocasio-Cortez is pointing to there is something we've discussed. There is a timeline. We know when certain things happen. And as I said earlier, we are not idiots. The American people, or at least most of us, are not idiots. And our Democratic Congress people are calling out what they see as obvious corruption. It is clear on its face what happened here. And we can tell every step of the way. Now, yeah, we need receipts and we need details, but hopefully the Democrats are going to do their due diligence, despite the fact that in a real sense, it may not matter. Like, nobody may be held accountable for this because welcome to the Trump regime. However, we deserve to know. We need transparency. We need to know if Donald's allies knew when to buy stock, how much, which ones, because at the end of the day, it is the American people who continue to be the real losers here. As prices go up, the stock market continues to swing wildly, affecting people's 401ks, affecting people's ability to plan, affecting people's ability to know what to expect on a day-to-day basis. Average Americans, American consumers, American taxpayers are the ones suffering, while Donald, again, recklessly, ignorantly, without a care in the world about the people being most affected, continues to do everything in his power, honestly, to destroy the American economy. Why? I don't have a good answer for you. The answer is because he's out of his mind. That's the answer to that question. In the meantime, he's surrounded by a bunch of people who are perfectly comfortable with watching him burn it down because they are continuing to get more and more wealthy. That's America right now. Please take a second and like and share this video. Be awesome if you could subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, please follow us and give the show a 5-star rating because it really does help other people find our content. Thanks.